Minister Freeland, we know you had a chance to speak with the Chinese ambassador in Canada today. What did you say to him or ask him about the detention of Michael Kovrig?
Well, I said to the ambassador that Canada is calling for the immediate release of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. I also spoke about Canada's insistence that these two Canadians be treated properly.
We have Canadian media reports of alarming details of how Michael Kovrig is being detained, apparently being interrogated day and night, having lights on all the time, not access to legal counsel. I'm sure you have even better sources than we do about what might be happening with him. Did you raise those concerns with the Chinese ambassador?
I raised each of those concerns. He said he would look into the matter.
So you, as far as you're concerned, this is you're getting accurate information about how at least Mr. Kovrig is being treated in China.
The reports that we have, some of which are public, are definitely not acceptable, and Canada has been very clear about that. I'm in close contact with the Kovrig and the Spavor families, and I think we have to remember these are human beings we're talking about. Canada is very closely concerned about this. And, you know, what I think is also an important development today is we have had public statements in support of Mr. Kovrig, in support of Mr. Spavor from some of our closest allies, from the EU, from the UK, from the US.
You have called these arrests arbitrary detentions. Are they political?
Well, we call them what we know them to be. We believe that it's important to get our facts straight, and so we wanted to hear from the Chinese authorities what the reasons for the detentions were.
Do you think they are politically motivated?
As I said, I'm not going to speculate beyond that, beyond saying that they are arbitrary and we think the two men should be released.
But we've seen that the arrests are largely seen as tit for tat, that they are in retaliation for Canada's arrest of Meng Wanzhou. Why are you not drawing that connection that we're hearing from so many other sources?
Well, we have been in close touch with the Chinese authorities. That connection has not been drawn by them. We're going to stick with the facts that we know. And I am always going to act, the Government of Canada is always going to act in the way that we believe is best for them. We're standing up firmly and clearly for them. We are acting within the rule of law. All of our actions are very much based on facts. And again, crucially for me, the really salient point today is having our allies come out in support of the Canadian position.
But that still contradicts what Donald Trump has suggested, that he might trade the Chinese executive that Canada has detained and might trade her for a better trade deal with China. I mean, you have all these statements from different countries, but that he's the president of the United States.
That is a different case. That's the detention of Ms. Meng. And we have been clear from the very outset that Canada absolutely does not believe that criminal justice matters, that extradition matters, should be politicized or used for some kind of a different political objective. And we expect our extradition partners not to politicize them. So Canada is very, very clear about that.
Just finally, we spoke with former Foreign Minister John Manley just the other day, and he said that Canada has never been more alone in the world than it is today. And I don't think it was a criticism. I think it is a comment on how you have conducted foreign policy and the positions you have taken that have isolated us. Do you feel isolated?
Not at all. I mean, let me first of all say I love John and I have enjoyed working with him closely. But I think actually the strong statements of support we've seen from our allies today, specifically supporting Canada, specifically speaking out in support of Mr. Kovrig and Mr. Spavor, specifically supporting Canada's conduct as a rule of law country that abides by its treaty commitments. That is not a country which is alone. This is a country which is strongly and publicly supported by the EU, strongly and publicly supported by the UK, strongly supported by the US. So I would actually say quite the opposite. I think that now is a moment when Canada is really assuming a real leadership position in the world as a country which is standing up for the rule of law. And let me tell you, Carol, I was in Europe 2 weeks ago and with the Prime Minister at the G20 the week before that. There are a lot of countries in the world that understand that if we go back to a sort of 19th century concert of Europe kind of world where might is right, that is not going to be good for them. It's not good for Canada, and it's not good for any country in the world.
I just want to ask you just very quickly, finally, is what are your greatest concerns for these Canadians who are detained in China right now?
Well, my greatest concern is I want them to be released and I want them to be able to come home. It's important also for us to continue to communicate with the government of China. We are doing that. When you have a difficult situation, it's important to keep talking. And what we are explaining to the Chinese government is what I've just been saying to you, that Canada is a rule of law-based country, and that is how we are behaving, that when Chinese citizens are detained in Canada, they are afforded due process and treated with respect, and that we expect the same treatment to be given to Canadians.
We will leave it there. Minister Freeland, I appreciate speaking with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Carol.